The illustrious Jabba bids you welcome. I'm going to regret this.
I'm Pete Mitchell. He's Peyton Jones. And this is the Church Planter Podcast, brought to you by Church Planter Magazine. Hey, Church Planter, this is Pete Mitchell.
And this is Peyton Jones.
And I am actually currently, as I speak to you right here, right now, looking for a new best friend.
What? Pray tell why, Pete?
Because I got a book, because I'm an influencer, mind you. I got a book here called Church Plantology.
Oh, what a nice looking book. And it has a nice letter. Dear cherished friend.
It does have this, a letter from the author. A dear friend, it's finally here. Anyway.
I didn't write that.
All I did was jump right to the acknowledgments because, you know, like I'm going to waste my time reading a book.
That's fine. The part about me.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
This is why our friendship works. Because you're not even ashamed about it.
Why would I be ashamed about that? I'm proud of who I am.
What I totally dig about you, man. To quote Rod Tidwell.
So I look it up, right? It's just, you know, it's page after page of acknowledgments. I was a little bit upset that I wasn't very, very first acknowledged. But you say your brother is your best friend. And I was like, wait, what? I need a Tinder for like friends where I can like find me a new friend. Because apparently it's not mutual, our friendship. It's not on the same level.
I have a few best friends, but he's my brother. He's my brother.
There are people who were born into your life and supposedly, you know, there's this connection, but the reality is the friend you choose is always stronger than this dude who just happened to be there when you were born.
I was stuck with my brother, Pete. I picked you.
That's all I'm saying. And all I get is this, and you know, this Pete Mitchell dude, if I didn't put his name in the book, I'd get in trouble. I mean, that's basically what you said.
Make a strong argument there, Pete. I can't lie. You make a good point. But I was proud of myself for putting you in the book, especially after dissing you. But fair play, I didn't name anyone in the last book.
Well, and
I mean, you were in the acknowledgments, though.
If I was going to, like, you know, brag, I did get my name in there twice. So, I mean, that should be worth something.
It's totally worth something.
But here's the downside. The first time I'm mentioned is on page 417, and it's a long line. And it only gets my first name on that page. And so you have to literally flip the page to see, oh, it's Pete Mitchell. It's that one. So, you know.
But you could say that my one reference about you took up 2 pages.
Oh, man. What I thought was
Remember,
funny,
you're a marketer. You got to put that spin on, you know, his reference of me took up 2 pages. That's a marketing spin. See, I learned from you. Yeah.
So I decided today to go on the Church Planter Podcast iTunes page and look at our reviews again, because I haven't looked at them in forever. Because I saw that. Did you see that thing I posted on Facebook?
Yeah.
Where I'd like circled this guy. Oh, he's a failed church planter because he gave us 2 stars. And this guy, oh, he never launched. He's a 2-star guy as well. So I had to go back and endure the pain. The guy who'd given us
Church Planter Podcast, dude. Church Planter Podcast used to bite back.
We did. So one guy had given us 4 stars, and so I'd commented he meant to tap the 5 button, you know, because I think he went back and changed it because there's no longer a 4-star on our review page. But now there's a third 2-star. I mean, it's been there for years, but you know, and they all say the same thing. There's too much fluff at the beginning. I got to wait through 20 minutes of their friendship before I get on with the good stuff.
Our theory of the church planter podcast was you're banned. You're banned from the podcast. You may no longer listen to the podcast.
Hey, I'll give you your money back if it's not good enough. If it doesn't
You used to say that at the end. If you didn't like the podcast, I'll give you your money back. Is that still on there?
I have no idea. Who knows? Who listens to the podcast? I don't listen to it.
Spoken like a marketer. This is why we can't have nice things. Oh, we can't forget to do the ad today.
Well,
do the ad.
It's your ad.
Apparently,
you have to remember to do the ad. I don't have to do anything.
All right. So when we transition into the talk, I will remember to do it, I think. We'll see how that goes.
So
what's up, dude? What's up in your life? I got nothing going on in my life. I didn't drop a book or anything yesterday. So tell me what's going on in yours.
I don't know that I have much going on in mine.
So we get to talk this whole episode about my podcast or about
your podcast,
my bookie wook.
Yeah, and see, this is how I know our friendship's in trouble. You've decided to do another podcast with other more important influencers.
Yeah, I'm two-timing on you big time. Yeah, that's true. I have been all over people.
I will say this:
other podcasters.
I did, because one time I was telling you, I'm like, oh man, I'm thinking about starting another podcast. I want to do it on marketing and blah blah blah. And you're like, look, man, if I can help you out in any way, I'm like, dude, you would be like the perfect person for me to do a podcast with because we play so well together.
Oh yeah.
But I'm like,
and
I can't even get you to show up for this one on time. There's no way you would show up for that one.
I never missed this one except for last week. No, I'm teasing. I don't miss this. I used to be kind of sporadic. That is true. But you gotta admit, I'm kind of here all the time now. Except for when I go on vacation.
Which you got some Mondo vacations, man. You're a real family man. I've said that about you. I'm a better friend. You're a better family man.
I don't know though, because you seem to take some good vacations. I mean, you guys are just on vacation.
No, not like you guys. You guys, I mean, you guys go on some great vacations, and a lot of them too.
Well, I have a woman. I must keep her in furs. She's expensive. She likes the finer things in life. No, I'm teasing. No, and it's funny. We just went to Catalina like a couple weeks ago.
Oh, how was that?
Oh my gosh, it's so good. I mean, March is the time to go to Catalina Island.
All I can tell you about Catalina is I worked for this company, and every year they had Employee Appreciation Day. Did I tell you the story?
No.
And every year they went to Catalina. They took all the employees, like 100 to 200 employees, to Catalina. Literally, we went to Catalina, got off the boat, walked right to the bar, started drinking, and then would walk back to the boat and get back on it and go back. I'm like, why are we just going to Catalina to go to a bar? This doesn't make it like we could have all just, saved the hour and a half boat ride to Catalina. But,
man, well, I tell you what, we went there. I had an amazing day. We went there. The girls went snorkeling, and I played this cool, that little like, it's not, I don't know. You're holding like little circles, and you got tennis balls, and they're like Velcro. You throw them back and forth.
Oh yeah, sure.
Eden's got an arm. She's gonna make Daddy rich one day. But so we I played that with her because she's a little afraid of sharks and stuff. So, but I'm telling you, man,
did you see the flying fish?
I did not, but I think the girls saw it because they went paddleboarding.
Oh, I see. I always saw them on the boat ride over.
Yeah, we saw a lot of dolphins. So that was kind of cool.
That is cool.
And what are the ones porpoises? We saw porpoise.
What's the difference between a dolphin and a porpoise?
A porpoise is like the poor man's dolphin, Pete. They're like the dwarf.
One's edible person. And one's toxic.
I've eaten dolphin meat. I don't know if that's bad, but I barbecued some on my honeymoon. Because I went to the supermarket. They had dolphin meat. And I said, oh, cool, man, dolphin meat. Never had that. So I cooked it up, unaware that this was very non-PC.
That it was
the dolphin meat.
You were eating
flipper? I mean, it was good. It tastes like swordfish. I liked it. I would eat it again if it weren't forbidden.
Paul said it's okay, whatever you eat. I'm just saying.
I guess he did. Yeah. So that's the rule my dog's living by, anyways. We're not going to go into that. So, hey, Pete, I had a bookie book come out.
Wait, what's this? A book?
I had a my bookie book.
I never knew you had such a thing.
Yes, my book. It feels more tangible, more real now. It's called Church Plantology. I'll just hold up so you can see it. It looks like a high school science textbook. It's funny, man. Actually,
hey, are you still doing the contest where if you take a picture of the book and put it on social media, you're going to do something?
I think so. Yeah.
Because I want to get my wife to take a picture of me reading the book, but I want to be on the toilet reading it.
Yeah. I have a lot of these books to give away. So a couple things I need, if you like it, if you get it and you like it, it was on sale yesterday for like $20. I probably shouldn't tell you that, but
what's the retail on it?
Well, 36 because it's a 500-page textbook, but this thing was yo-yoing all day. Like I went out there and said, "Hey, everybody, it's 20, launch day, $20." And there's the train. I've got my balcony door open. I'm in my
wow. He waited till he was right in front of your balcony door.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it's wide open.
Is that Peyton guy? Wait for it now.
And but I don't remember what I was saying. Amazon
price review? Jumping all around. Launch
price
day
was jumping all over the place. No sooner would I say, "Hey, it's this," and the price would change. People would like it change again.
All I got to tell people is you just need to strive to become an influencer, and then Zondervan will actually send you a book in the mail.
Correct.
With a great little letter from the author.
Correct. Yes. That he did not write, but they looked at it.
Here.
They sent it to me, and I said, "Yeah, that looks like something I would say." It wasn't. I get those letters all the time. Same letter everyone gets, but have my name signed at the bottom. And I meant those thoughts. I would have thought those thoughts. I just would have said like, "Hey, stupid, here's my book." I would have. You would have
said, "Hey, take a picture of the book and put it on social media, and tag me in it, and I'll help you."
Amazon review. Yeah. So for those of you that got it, you're looking at it. Please write me an Amazon review. That is what I need. If you want to know what to give back, I'm not asking for much. I just need an Amazon review. It doesn't have to be written well. It doesn't even, I would prefer to be a 5-star, but I need reviews on Amazon. So my goal is to have 100 Amazon reviews within 30 days. If I get that helps the book get visibility. And I would love to reach that algorithm. So, yeah. So, Pete, I need your review, baby. Let me have it.
Yeah, but that would require me to read it.
You can listen to it on Audible.
How many hours is it?
Let me tell you now. Hold on. It's got an Audible. I'm calling an Audible here. And it is. It's about 15 hours and something. Here you go.
Published his groundbreaking work, Missionary Methods, St. Paul's or Ours. Over 100 years later, the book remains in
that's
print,
copyright infringement.
Appreciated as a standard missionary.
Recorded.
Because over and I'm going
we in the church had shut our.
Is it actually copyright infringement?
Well, if you do too much of it, yeah. You got fair use, and then it goes into copyright infringement.
Wow. Can't play my own book. Crazy.
No,
my own podcast.
Zondervan claims your book.
Yeah, but can I stop them? Hey, you can't play my book. My bookie book. Can I do that? Can
I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you got a book.
Brother. Thanks, brother. So, anyways.
So, Peyton, why did the book have to be written?
Yes, the standard questions. Well, actually, that's a fantastic question, Pete. I'm glad
we're not going to jump into that without you doing the commercial first.
Oh, hold on. Let me pull it up. Buy some time for me. Hey, you. Do you have problems with getting your sermons on your website? Okay.
This is going to be the shortest Shortest sponsor ever.
Let me actually read the ad. Hey, pastors, you spend countless hours preparing for your messages, then preach your heart out each and every week. But then what? How can people in your church or online find those messages again? Not just last week's message, but what about last month's or last year's? If people are going to your website to listen to your previous messages, they're probably having to scroll through endless pages to find that message. Or they're being instructed to go to YouTube or Facebook to listen to it, which is frustrating, not to mention distracting. There has to be a better way. Well, friends, now there is. Sermon Boss is an audio video live streaming platform which comes with a podcast that you can easily integrate in your church's website and church app, so you'll no longer need to send your people anywhere else to find your teachings. Sermon Boss will allow people to easily search for or find, discover, and even customize a personal playlist from your teachings right from your website. Sermon Boss easily integrates with other platforms so you can keep your YouTube, Vimeo, and Facebook followers without having to send them away from your website to find your live stream and previous messages. Go to sermonboss.com today and schedule a free online demo and see how easy it is to make your teachings more accessible and even in greater impact for the kingdom of God. We look forward to hearing from you, Sermon Boss. And that's going to be the new way to read that from now on. And I think he wanted you to do it for a reason, Pete.
Well, I'm sure it's not because he wanted quality.
M-O-G. I mean, this is going to be a thing.
God.
Next time we go to conference, we're going to hear someone go, Sermon Boss. People still to this day at Exponential sometimes yell out to me that.
Mogiv.
We used to have a thing where we would tell people, hey, say it to us in the conference.
Mogiv was great until somebody bought him or something, and then we lost our contact, and then they were gone.
And then that was before the dark times, before the Empire.
Yeah.
So, dude, I just watched Star Wars Episode 3 with my kids. Dude, it is so good.
It started at episode 4. Right? What is this episode 3 business?
Dude, you gotta rethink your life. That movie still holds up and it's still super good. Episode 3 is, I mean, it is just so good. So
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah, Darth Vader. It's good stuff.
That's a bunch of what I like to call malarkey.
Yeah, well, hey, man, listen, I'm getting ready to watch the other one, what's it called? Rogue One? I'm going to watch that one.
Oh, you haven't seen it?
No, I'm getting ready to watch it with Lib. She has not seen it.
But you've seen
movie.
It.
Oh, yeah, a couple times.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I thought that was a good movie.
I've only seen it 2 times, I think. But
anytime you have AT-ATs at Hawaii, that's just cool.
Yeah, it's pretty dang cool. So I'm excited for Liberty. She gets to watch it. I've tried to get her into watching the Marvel Universe. We started with Iron Man, got halfway through it. And I'm like, hey, want to watch Iron Man again and, watch the second half? No, it's okay. So I don't know if I'm going to.
Have you watched Falcon and Winter Soldier?
I think it's dumb.
I think it is best that your brother's your best friend.
Yeah. So I liked WandaVision. I'm not that much.
You're not into
fan.
Are you serious?
Well, I really like. So Winter Soldier movie was my favorite Marvel movie, right? Other than like Endgame and Infinity War, I love those. But Winter Soldier was my favorite like standalone Marvel movie. But this show just isn't doing it for me. It's kind of trite and dumb.
Wow.
You like it?
Yeah, it's really good.
Huh.
But you and I have totally different opinions.
We totally do.
We've discovered over the last 8 years, we actually have nothing in common.
I find it slow, boring, and almost laughable, like some of their dialogue. Even in WandaVision, there was one point at which they were doing the tropey detective show stuff so badly, I actually thought they're making fun of it here. It has to be a joke. It turned out it wasn't a joke. I thought they were going to find all of a sudden they were in Wanda's fantasy world, like in some cop drama, and they weren't. And I was like, oh, because that would have been really funny. And I totally thought they were there because you've gone too far this time. You're over the line, mister. Yeah, I'm outside of your jurisdiction. And I'm like, this is funny stuff. Like, this is every cop movie, everywhere. And, but anyways, yeah. So I'm not feeling it yet. Captain America's bad though. I think I got that so far. He's turning bad.
Well, yeah, he kills a guy on camera.
I ain't seen it yet.
You didn't? That's part. A good episode.
No, I'm on the part where they. Which episode is it? I think
he's no longer Captain America.
Captain America tells him, "Stay out of my way," and then they go off. Okay, so they just picked the dude out, and he put that hood on. The bad dude, he put the hood on, and then they went and raided the shipyard. They're in that city, and now they're in some car driving off. Yeah, I like that dude. I like the bad dude. He's cool.
He's no longer Captain America.
Well, you can't tell me the show. Like, I'll keep
Falcon
watching
has the shield now, and
you can't tell me this.
He's training with it because
why are you telling me all this? Like, you want me to watch it and like it, right? He's
the first Black Captain America. That's kind
of cool.
That's what they're going for. But what are you going to call him? Falcon Cap?
Well, it was funny because now that you say that, now the scene where he goes, "Oh, you're the Black Falcon," and he goes, "Are you the Black Kid?" He's like, you're just Kid. Well, and the joke was back in the 80s, he would have been in the credits, Black Kid,
Oh, that's true, huh?
Yeah. And I thought, like, when he said that, I thought they were kind of poking fun. Like, yeah, times have changed. They used to say that in film credits, but I like now that he basically now has already preempted, like, this is not Black Captain America. This is just Captain America.
Hey, what did you think of the trial this week?
I didn't watch it, but to be honest, what I do know, I am glad that he got manslaughter for that.
Yeah.
I feel it was deserved. And I feel that for the fact that it has been so politicized, like justice, the symbol for justice in America has a blindfold on for a reason. If that were done to anybody, a white on white, a black on black, like a cop does that to anybody, you just got to ask yourself.
Here's the one thing that I'll say right before you go into that, because I don't want to
talk about my book.
I felt exactly what you're saying when you see the video of him kneeling on the guy's neck, and then when you see the other video that they waited 3-4 months to release, which is from his point of view, his camera, and you're like, wait a second, dude, he's being totally nice to the guy the whole time until he has to put him down, and then you're like, wait. Okay, this is like a totally different take on it. So I honestly didn't have an opinion on it one way or the other because I didn't hear anything. I didn't watch the trial. Yeah. I didn't hear anything that was said one way or the other. We
have this thing in America where like cops can do anything without impunity. And don't get me wrong. I'm not anti-cop at all. But at the same time, kneeling on a dude's neck is just a no-brainer. I mean, that
was actually taught as part of their training. This is what you do to get people under control.
Cops are not trained. It's funny. My brother, like I've said a million times before, is combat infantry, and he's like, cops are not trained well to handle these situations. He goes, I'm combat infantry. I've been in, many different theaters of war. My brother was in charge of policing New Orleans.
If an infantry guy had done what most of our cops do, they'd be court-martialed.
Yeah.
And thrown in jail.
Yeah. My brother had a significant role in the policing of New Orleans after Katrina, and that was a domestic policing operation. And again, like I said, my brother, National Guard, trained to handle that, was a Marine before that. Combat infantry has been a big part of his career. And he'll just tell you, police are not trained with the same standards. They're also not held to the same degree of accountability that a U.S. soldier is held to. Yep. That needs to change. And I feel that it is changing, and I feel it's good. I think the police should be a little afraid to do harm to a citizen. I feel that is a good place to be for, and people say, well, but these guys, they got to fear for their lives all the time. And I understand that. Yeah. I'm not going to negate that. But if that is the sticking point, you need another career, right? Like that comes with the job. That's like saying a soldier, he has to think about his life and his safety. Well, that might not be the best line of work if that's your chief concern. A soldier is called to lay down his life at any moment. And our police officers, unfortunately, are asked to do the same. And so when the argument comes out that, hey, they might die and they were scared, I get that. That's human. But the point is, that is the job. And if you are not made out for the job, you would not have been the first to be in the wrong career, not kitted out for what you need to do or what it takes to carry out that job. But that, to me, it doesn't matter what came before it. The kneeling on the neck part was that led to his death. And whether it was premeditated, it does not appear to be premeditated.
That's the part to me
that's why manslaughter.
Yeah, but see, that's the part that always I found really interesting is the medical examiner was like, look, if you take away everything, all of the video and the political, the riots, everything, he goes, we would say he died because he overdosed on fentanyl. He had 3 times the lethal amount in his body.
Right.
And that's why I just look at it and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I wasn't on that jury. I wouldn't know.
But what people don't know often when it comes to drugs is that number, that figure of what a lethal amount is considered to be changes. For an addict can carry over a lethal amount, no problem, and not die from it. Like I doubt George Floyd would have died that day. Even, despite what the toxicology report is, he would not have died that day if someone had not kneeled on his neck for that length of time. So, and that's just part of being an addict. You can carry a lot. I know. I'm just saying, I'm just glad I wasn't on the jury because, man, that would be. It was a tough place to be, but I also, I think. But I agree with you. Like, I agree that the cops, like, I'm not a huge cop fan because I think. You don't say. Well, but I mean, like. Well, I don't believe. It's not that you don't dislike cops. It's that we need accountability. I think the system's broken. Yes, the system's broken, and we got cops who are pulling people over, writing up tickets for victimless crimes. Like my wife just got a $400 ticket for speeding. I'm like, that's a totally victimless crime. Like she was literally going too fast on one side street, just barely over the limit. Like that's a victimless crime. Why are we even doing this to people? Because of money. Because of money. You got to understand that those crimes are the crimes that target people with money, and there are different policing actions that target people without money. Yeah. And when they need money, they go to you, they go to me, and they take the money from us. But there's another reason why the other communities are targeted, and that's coming to the surface. They are helpless. They are powerless. I mean, the Bible talks a lot about this, right? Like people that are powerless. The Bible talks about being the friend of the poor, coming to those who suffer injustices. So for me, I if I get away from any kind of media spin on both sides, by the way, I don't appreciate the media spin on either the liberal or conservative side of these things because they're both inflammatory and emotive in nature. If I step back and I prayerfully analyze and think about it and run everything through the filter of scripture, it's a different animal. And I am off politics. Like I looked at my Apple News feed today, Pete, and it was the equivalent. The headlines were the equivalent of junior high gossip. Really? So-and-so melts down over blah, blah, blah. So-and-so lights into such and such over their hypocrisy. And it was like, what is this like? Is this like that show? What was that? Entertainment Tonight? Like where it was just a gossip rag. And to me, it's just such a lack of journalism. I have been impressed that I have seen, a little more calling out of people recently from their own sides. On both sides of the aisle. And I think to myself, that gives me hope. Hypocrisy and injustice is wrong, no matter who's doing it. And I am seeing a little bit more of that. But the media, by and large, I think has devolved into gossip rags. And I'm just not interested, But hey, we got a book to talk about. Why'd you make me wax political, Pete Mitchell, before we talk about the book? You brought it up before we started the podcast. Well, I've got another show with Myron Pierce and Daniel Yang on how to lead through injustice. When people feel injustice is being done, can you hear all that?
Yeah.
Okay. It's really bad. I got a towel cutter and I got someone laying the floor. So pretty crazy over here. Sorry about that.
So anyway, you were saying about this podcast? That's what you guys were talking about?
Why did the book need to be written, Pete?
That's not my question.
It was your question. And then you go, but before I get into that, I want to know what you thought about the George Floyd ruling. What kind of question is that? You don't want to interview me about my book. He does not like book interviews.
He already interviewed you last week about your book.
Did you see the guy on Facebook who said, and he took a picture of himself and he said, you can look at my Facebook wall. He said, here's me reading the book. He had it on his iPhone. And he says, and if I buy a copy of the book and I win, will you have Pete Mitchell sign my copy?
Did he really?
He did. He did.
See, that's the kind of people I need in my life.
Instant best friend. What are you doing next Saturday?
Well, I saw one of your Facebook friends recently friended me, so I friended him. I accepted the friend request, and he wrote, Peyton Jones just came out with this book. I'm so looking forward to getting into it. I've been listening to his podcast since like 2015 with his co-host. I'm just co-host. So I think I put a comment. I'm like, sorry about the podcast.
That was so funny. Yes, you have at times been treated like a t-ball tee, like a golf tee, like you're just there to hold up.
Just there to hold the podcast up.
That's
I'm here to keep it going.
That's it. Well, I'll tell you one thing. The book was written really. I'll tell you the one thing I feel about this book. Speaking with Alan Hirsch, Hugh Halter, Brian Sanders, Brad Briscoe, some of the people that think like us. This is our church planning book. There has not been a church planning. There have been good church planning books out there. Don't get me wrong. But this is the APEST team leadership, church and public space, missional stance. This is the church planning book that I still can't believe didn't exist before. That people from various tribes all over with the message that's been really preached for the last 10 years. This is the church planning book for our people, for our tribe. And that's what I feel about this, to be honest. That's why I feel it needed to be written. So when I got approached, Zondervan didn't say, hey, could you write one from, the perspective of the first century church or whatever? They just knew me. And they're like, hey, we know you're a practitioner. We need a practitioner book. But for me, the more that I started mapping it out and writing it, I knew this is a book that is going to fill a gap because so many church plants are built on the foundation of, I would say, the shifting sands of the church growth movement. And this book says, let's build it on the solid rock of the first century and the book of Acts and the epistles.
So in chapter 1 of your book, which I've only read the first 2 chapters. And by the way, the second chapter was painful for me to read. But
why?
Because you're a history
Paul's learning
buff.
curve?
And I'm like, this is painful. Ugh.
So
I only do this for previous best friend, for the Tinder of best friends. So anyway.
I like that you put your glasses on when you get serious. This is great. You make it look so good.
This was actually a line I used to do in financial planning. Someone would show me their paperwork. I had like these little ones, right? I'm like,
so good.
This is good. This is good. I like what you did here, but I have a few concerns.
You actually use that?
Yeah.
That's so good.
Just take the glasses off, but I have a few concerns. It's great. So, hey, tell us the difference between church starting and church planting.
Ooh, glad you asked. It will be no surprise that this is actually a little bit of a punk move, and I feel slightly guilty for it. In chapter 1, I actually contrast church planting with church starting. And I say a lot of what you've read is church starting. It focuses on the church itself. It puts the church out in front. It becomes an idol. It Jesus, the gospel, all that stuff kind of takes a back seat. You make people wear t-shirts, my church is awesome, that kind of stuff. And the church is like the big focus. We're this big church in the neighborhood. And that's church starting. And it's very much a church as a focus. And we all know what that is. Whereas Paul, when you read in the New Testament, he is very much he's planting a church. He's taking the seed of the gospel. He's sowing it. He's entering. I mentioned 6 things that Paul does to church plant. Things like there's a heavy reliance on prayer. He's entering the rhythms of the community. He's boldly preaching the gospel. And I walk people through Acts 13 and 14 and say, look, he's doing the same thing in the same order. And of course, I make the point that you just highlighted, which was, but Paul, of course, as soon as you try to nail him down, that was his first missionary journey. Every time that Paul ends up doing a mission, he changes up because he's learning. And so what I was hoping to do in chapter 2 was bring the planter with me, so that he would be on that journey of learning as well, and realize you're not the only one because you're going to fail forward in church planning, and that's okay. So did Paul, but we can also learn from him. He said he was a wise and master builder. So let's learn from his mistakes. And I pull the principles out from all of his missionary journeys. Now, so far, a few people I know, like there's a guy that's a PhD, teaches church planning courses. He read it and said, I've never seen this stuff before. Briscoe was like, you've connected things to Acts for me as a planner I've never seen, and he's been working in NAM for like 20 years. So I do feel that the book has unique contributions to the church planning conversation. I actually think there's probably about 10 of the 20 chapters are significant in that they postulate things that have not been postulated. And they're from practitioners. So the church plantology principle is where scripture, best global missionary practices, and church history overlap. And the reason church history is important is if it's in the scripture and missionaries are still using those principles today, then obviously when a move of the Spirit happens throughout history, you would expect to see those things making a cameo again. So to me, that is a church plantology principle. But I have to show it in the scripture. I have to show it in global missional practices, and I have to show it in the other places.
So let me ask you here. You compare church starting versus church planning. And I thought this was funny because this is some stuff that I didn't get credit for, but I think I've been part of the formulation of your thoughts on this over the years from the Church Planner podcast.
That's fair enough.
Church starting, choose a sexy church name, design a sexy church logo. I just thought those are funny, man, because I'm like, dude, how many times have we talked about that stuff? Yeah, market like mad, attain critical. But one of the interesting things was when you compared that to church planting, one of the points you made here, pick a fight with something. Expand on that idea. What do you mean by pick a fight with something as a church planting concept? Yeah.
So picking a fight is, it's actually, what's that?
Bob Goff. Pick a fight.
Goff.
You remember him?
Did you say that?
Yeah. We wrote him in the Church Planner magazine. Pick a fight.
Maybe that's where I got that from.
Maybe, because I remember it from that.
Yeah, no, you know what? It must have stuck out to me when he said it because, picking a fight for me is picking a fight with something in your community. It's you have something that is bothering you. I like to think of it. You and I think we talked a couple of weeks ago about the Good Samaritan, where he couldn't just keep walking by. He had to do something about it. So when I think of picking a fight, it's that area in your community where you're like, I have to go take this on. Like, I'm going to go pick a fight. Going back to William Wallace, where are you going? I'm going to pick a fight. That whole scene, it's now or never, it's do or die. And Paul goes and picks fights, in different parts. So in where you find Paul doing it is when he's agitating the circumcision group, and he's angering the Jews by preaching this gospel to the Gentiles. He's picking a fight with religion. He's picking a fight with, blocking unbelievers out of the worship of God. So he goes in and he picks a fight. It causes riots. It gets him locked up, but it gets a lot of attention. And so picking his fight is strategic. And so I mentioned that as a strategy and for you, maybe it's picking a fight with kids aging out of foster care, which we've talked about. Maybe it's sex trafficking. It's something that you say. So like Di Hankey, I've had him on various podcasts over the years. He was a co-founder of New Breed with me. He's currently doing Manumit Coffee in Wales, and they literally rescue people from sex trafficking and employ them in his coffee roasting business. And that's the fight he picks. And he, sees them come to faith. Not all of them do, but a number of them do. And he uses the proceeds of that to further fight sex trafficking. And that came, by the way, when Andy Tuvey, the guy who is the director of the Jump School video series, actually, he was asked to make a documentary exposing sex trafficking. He's one of the church planners in early New Breed. They seized a large cache of money from a sex trafficking ring, and they used that money. The money was given to raising public awareness. He went in that film project and made these amazing films that raised the social awareness in Britain. And so and that was something where they just couldn't keep walking by.
So another point that you make here, and I thought this was really potent. If you boil down all 4 of those recordings of the same conversation, you come up with 5 things he wanted them to focus on. Make disciples, baptize them in the name of the triune God, teach them to obey God's commands, go to all the nations, preach. And then you have a comment in the next paragraph from Ralph Moore, and I thought this was really interesting. If you plant churches, discipleship may or may not happen. Yet if you devote yourself to making disciples, churches will inevitably be planted. Expand.
Only if you go. Now, something concerns me about that. I have concerns about this.
I would like you to delve more into that.
You want the truth? You can't handle the truth. So here's what happens. I recently just came across a real life example of this, and I keep mentioning this because I'm just so blown away. Like last week I was in Texas, and I was with Bible League International, which they translate discipleship tools for people abroad. Well, what happened was they said, look, we're not in the church planner training business, but we're training church planners, and albeit, we don't know how good we're doing. I mean, they're planting churches and it's working, but they said we were just training people to disciple, like mobilizing the everyday average believer to disciple and use discipleship. They call it Project Philip. So everybody gets to be a Philip, sitting next to the Ethiopian and explaining Isaiah 53 or, Gospel of John or whatever. And they said, but once we empowered and equipped enough people in a nation to do that, churches just happen. All right. People didn't wake up and say, I'm going to get a sexy logo on a website and boom. It was just faith communities were forming based on all these people coming to faith and getting discipled. So it's funny because I literally just had a real life example of that just in these conversations of them coming and saying, hey, this is why we want to track with you and follow you and discuss church planner training with you, because this is what happens on the ground globally. And of course, Plantology, that's a part of it. I wish I had that contact when I was writing the book, because I surely would have put that in there. But that could be for my second textbook. There will not be a second textbook.
So one of the other things you say in the first chapter, and this might be the last question we really got time to focus on. You say, if you're not allowed to start a Sunday service, describe what your churches look like. Once you can answer that question, you're beginning to crack the code to defining what church planting is. What do you mean by that? Can't do a Sunday service.
Yeah. So one of the things I do when I train planners is I will ask them. So I have this thing called Citywide that I do on the ground, which is getting a bunch of people. We call it Church Planner Training Station. You know me. I like playing musical chairs.
You used to call it Jump School.
I didn't.
I went on your website and I was like, good God, he's calling something else Jump School. I don't even know what it is anymore.
I just want to set the record straight here. Let's go back in time, shall we? You and I developed a course online
everything you call jump school, literally everything.
Let's just set the record straight. Jump school originally was meant to be core team training. And you said way back then, well, we could use these movies. Why don't we just call that jump school? And I go, okay. Ever since then, ever since we did that, that is true. That is actually what happened. The movies
came out after we did the training.
No, the movies I filmed in 2011. I filmed those in 2011. I was building that way early on, and his post-production stretched out a little bit, but we, so jump school was old. In fact, we called jump school, our initial church planner training over there, but then we made the films into the core team. There was another
jump school.
So jump school is always meant to be core team training. So my core team
might have
training
always
is
meant to
rightly
be.
called.
I have no problem with what it was meant to be. I've just told you over the years, you have to stop calling things jump school because no one has any idea what you're talking about.
I understand, but you can't say, listen, the only confused people will be people early on with us. But jump school was always meant to be core team training. All I did was apply it to core. And as much as we joke about the musical and this and that, that's all I've called it. I've called two things jump school. One was our year-long thing. The other was the core team training. So I'm setting the record straight right here. It was always meant to be core team training. So I just took it back is all that happened.
That's great. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I still remember you and I had a conversation and I was like literally pleading with you. I'm like, please, here's all the reasons you can't call it jump school. That's great. I'm going to call it jump school anyway. I'm like,
hey, if you hadn't asked me to call it jump school the first time, we would have been fine.
I don't even know what you're talking about, but I'll take your word for it.
Take my word for it. Hey, who wrote a textbook here? Huh?
I know. Who's the published author?
Just saying. I'm just saying.
Well, look at the big head on Brad.
There's authority.
So anyway, back to the Sunday service.
Yeah. So one of the things that we train them to do is we train them to actually plan a church without a Sunday service. So we're right away, like that's actually their assignment. When they're training with us there, we're actually doing field training. We're training them on the ground, and we take them into a neighborhood and we say, right, you're going to plant a church here, but not on Sunday. There will be no Sunday service, right? What are you going to do? Once they crack that missional strategy, they have cracked the heart and soul of church planning. They cracked the code. Now it's like Paul in Philippi, who didn't start a Sunday service, but instead went and entered the rhythms of the group that met for prayer down by the river. That's how he met Lydia, the woman who worked in dyes and started a church, meeting with her in her own rhythm. And so that's what we're training planners to do. Now, I have nothing against a Sunday service. I hope and pray that they will eventually do a Sunday gathering. I think it's biblical. I think it's healthy. I think there's a way to do it that's very first century that will tick all the boxes that of church plantology principles, which are things that our listeners have heard for years and years and would benefit from. But yeah, I think that's the heart and soul of it. Once you can take and strip the Sunday service out, then you're at the heart of missionary practice for that is required for church planning. But unfortunately, church starting focuses on running the Sunday service. Church planting doesn't need one.
I can think right now of someone who you and I have talked about over the years. I'm pretty sure his whole program is all about launching that Sunday service.
Yeah. I don't know who you're talking about, but the book starts off with John Keating from Dead Poet Society and just says, hey, you're going to have to rip out probably the introductory chapter to most church planning books because they're built on that foundation. And that's not going to help you. Those are the church plants that fail. But your church plan is not going to fail if it's based on discipleship and evangelism. Just not.
Yeah.
What fails in most church plans, we've talked about this before, what actually fails is the finances of the planter because he doesn't go by go. And secondly, the large public gathering he had idolized in his mind fails. He never or she never achieves that. And therefore, the church plant of their dreams fails, not the actual hard work and ministry. That work doesn't fail. That's a sowing, that's a watering, and that's a reaping. So we've got to change our mindset. So this book is meant to shift the paradigm back to what ministry was meant to be and build church planning on that foundation.
Interesting. So while you're doing all this church planning, how do you deal with IRS compliance and accounting and all that stuff you got to do for a church?
Well, I go to Simplify Church, Pete. I was on an interview with Josh Henry yesterday for this book, and Simplify Church helps me meet all of my bookkeeping, accounting needs, and IRS compliance.
Wow, it's simplifychurch.com?
That's right, Pete.
They'd probably simplify my church.
They would. They are dedicated to helping the non-math pastor, Pete. That's simplifychurch.com.
I love it. I love it.
Too. Me too. Never gets old. So, hey, guys, we want to thank you today for joining us. I've been Peyton Jones, and this has been Pete Mitchell, reminding you to buy Church Plantology everywhere fine Christian books are sold. That's it. I'm out. Sorry about the noise.
Thanks for joining us for another weekly episode of the Church Planter Podcast with Pete Mitchell and Peyton Jones. We'd love to hear your comments on this episode of the Church Planter Podcast. Visit us online and let us know what you thought at churchplanterpodcast.com. If you subscribe to us via iTunes and have enjoyed the podcast, leave us a positive review. The more positive reviews we receive in iTunes, the more iTunes will promote us to other church planners who would benefit from this show. This podcast is brought to you by the Church Planter Magazine, which is available in the iTunes newsstand or online via churchplantermagazine.com.